Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 42, where we have Shannon Book, who served in the Marines, retired, and decided to follow his passion, write music, and has been in the industry for some time now. Also, a mental health advocate. By sharing his story, as he does here in this podcast, we get into some victimhood, we get into some of the nuances of recovery, and going through talking about symptoms of trauma. And to check out his page, go to @Shannon Book Music, and I'll put a link down in the description below. This was definitely a good conversation. I was glad to have him on. Look forward to having him on in the future. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and enjoy the conversation on your way to your local trailhead or to commute to work.
You were saying you were thinking about starting one, but what?
Oh, I was thinking about starting a podcast called Back to Life, Life After Trauma.
Nice, man. That sounds good.
You know, and just kind of continue on in, the Corpsman vein of taking care of people, not necessarily just veterans, but just like everybody who's ever experienced trauma, and just bring people in to talk about trauma and how they've grown from it or after it. You know what I mean? What kind of damage it's caused, and how they've overcome it, or what they're stuck in, or just stuff like that.
No, yeah, and that's kind of I'm right now I was kind of like focused on, and that's kind of why I started this. But it was more so like also to talk about a bunch of other things as well. Not really like try to pigeonhole into like one thing or another. But that's one of the things is like through natural conversation of these things to kind of come out, because it really intrigues me. Like one of the underlying questions I have for a lot of people that kind of join this venture of trying to help people raise awareness for mental health and all these things is like that moment where the gear switched or the light switch came on to
the aha moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I was kind of curious because it's when we were talking last weekend when we're driving a mission,
right,
I could hear that same vibration, if you will, like of like, I don't know, I could just hear hear it in your voice. And I was curious, like, man, that's a question I want to ask him. Like, when did that like click over for you, where you're just kind of like, I'm going to use my music to try to do this? Or
I think that for me personally, so when I first retired, a buddy of mine, Eddie Morgan, Staff Sergeant of Marines, we'll call him a 6th Marines kind of guy, or whatever. He smells like sin and bad decisions. But so Eddie was like, "Hey man, you need to go to school." And I was like, okay. So we started going to school at Coastal Carolina Community College together. And you got 2 staff NCOs going to college at a freaking community college in in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And I was like, well, I'm gonna do, what are we gonna do? And I was like, well, I guess I'll do pre-med, because I'm thinking I'm going to continue to be a doctor. I'm going to continue on to be a PA or a doctor or whatever. But I wasn't healthy. There's nothing about me that was healthy. I'd lost my family. I'd lost my 12-year marriage. I'd lost a lot of things. And it was because of my mentality that I lost it all. It wasn't because of the system, or it wasn't because of whatever. It was because I couldn't get out of my own way. I literally just saw, before I came in here, I was just in another room with my therapist talking about this exact same thing. It's kind of funny how God puts things into succession, right? Mm-hmm. Like God creates all kinds of means and pathways for healing and communication. We just have to look at it and see it for what it's for what it is. But we were literally just talking about this thing. And, when I got out, like I was too busy and too pissed off at everybody but me.
Yeah.
Everybody but me. And secretly, I'm like, unbeknownst to me, I was angry at myself too. At the end of the day, I would walk into a bar and I would take a shot of Jameson and I would drink half a PBR. And I go, which one of you MFers want to freaking knock my block off? I wanted somebody to terminate me, but it never ended that way. Like it just, ended up in a bar brawl and, chairs are broken. People are, you can't come back in here for a week or so, blah, blah, whatever.
Right.
So it was, and so the aha moment, I think the aha moment has happened several times. When it comes to that aha moment, there are moments where I see it. And then there was finally a moment where I was like, that's the direction I need to be going, So over time, over periods of time in my life, the aha moment has shown up. It's put itself on the screen and it's been like, hey, dude, I don't know if you know this or not. What you're doing is completely detrimental to everything you are and everything you believe. And then, you hear that big loud voice in your ear, and I hear that. I'll use me as I like to talk in first person. I hear that big booming voice in my head. And I'm like, I don't know. It's fine.
Right.
Like I'm a warrior, man. I'm a Navy corpsman. Kiss my butt. Yeah. Because that's what I've been taught. I've been taught that bravado, and that bravado takes me to the next level. Always have. But it doesn't. My spirit is what takes me to the next level. But that bravado has always been part of. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like putting accelerant on a fire. You know what I mean? The fire's already burning, but if you throw gas on it, it gives a flash.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of creates a little heat there in the very, at the very moment of, it touching. So that bravado was never really anything but flash. My spirit has always been what's driven me. So getting back to what I was saying, that moment, that aha moment that I actually stuck with, probably happened less than a year. Well, actually a little bit more than a year ago. October 12th of 2020, I drank myself into oblivion and decided that I was going to drive home. I don't even know where I was at. I was off a freaking road that I shouldn't even been on. I was going to go play pool at some dude's house somewhere in the middle of nowhere at 2:00 in the morning, drunk out of my brain. And I woke up. This is my 4th DUI. I woke up about to hit a guardrail, like seconds before I hit a guardrail.
Damn.
And I woke up and I was like, oh, this is going to suck. And I hit it and I like nose to nose. Like it was literally engine compartment, engines on the ground. The guardrail is literally in the middle of the car. It's like the whole nose is peeled around the guardrail. I get out of the car, not a scratch on me. And at that moment, I was like, God, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. I don't make this, I don't want to make this, a Christian podcast or nothing, but to me, man, God is everything that I've ever needed. And God's been trying to tell me this for a long time. And I just couldn't listen. I wasn't listening. I didn't listen. I listened to the wrong voice. I listened to all the demons and the devil in my head instead of that nice little whisper, which is what we consider our conscience. Most of the time, the easiest voice to hear is the big loud one. Yeah, man, that's cool. Let's go do this shit. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it's because it's more, I've talked about this before, but it's like more welcomed in our society,
Right.
Like the negative coping mechanisms that we pick up, especially in the military, like is drinking. You know what I mean? That's where we
Yeah.
kind of share bonds together. That's where we kind
I mean,
of
we were born in a bar, bro.
yeah. Yeah, you guys are born in the bar. I was Air Force, so I don't know. We're probably born in a country club or something.
Yeah,
So.
you guys are born on a golf course. But the Marine Corps was born in a bar, and sailors are just as bad, sailors, pirates and rum and yo ho ho and bullshit,
Yeah.
but
no, yeah,
so yeah, it being, completely acceptable globally. It cracks me up, and I'm not advocating for either or, but alcohol is probably the most addicting substance on the planet.
You're right.
And it's legal.
Yeah, man. It's I've had this conversation many times with different people, and it's not like from a place of judgment. It's like a place like, man, I've been there. I get it.
Yeah.
I've done the same thing. I've drank a shit ton to kind of escape things. I've drank a shit ton to celebrate things. I drank a shit ton to anything and everything. It was kind of like culturally, as I grew up, that's the way my family was. Anything that it could be a fucking kid's birthday party, and we have a keg of beer there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're gonna celebrate this 3-year-old's birthday with a cake.
Yeah. Kid, you better keep its head up, Just,
yeah. Hey, give the kid some cake, then go get me a beer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been conditioned over the course of my life. Fast forward, military, same thing. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes during the week. You know what I mean? And it just kind of became that thing of where we kind of that's what it was, and didn't ever realize it. I remember I used to say shit like, man, like if anybody ever made me quit drinking, then like I'd probably have to cut off that relationship, like especially like a female.
Yeah.
Like,
listen, if you tell me I can't have a beer in front of you, we're not talking again.
Yeah, exactly. So and I think about that like in hindsight, I'm like, what was that? That was like stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that was somebody who cared about you instead of somebody who wanted to see you act a fool.
Right. Exactly.
Because somebody who wants to watch you act stupid will hand you another beer.
Yeah. And then I started to identify with that too, because when I decided to I'm going to put drinking aside, I was like, well, am I going to be able to be around people at parties? Are they going to expect this different version of myself? You know what I mean? Am I going to be able to be myself? I thought myself was wrapped in alcohol in one way or another. And so, I mean, it was all these different obstacles that I had to deal with when I decided to just, maybe I should hang it up. And I had people tell me too, like I remember I had one doc and he told me straight up, based off my history, fighting and doing stupid shit, you know what I mean? And having close calls. He was like, do you really feel like you should keep drinking? And I remember getting like offended, like, like who the fuck are you to tell me, you know what I mean? But in hindsight, like,
are you to tell me not to drink, fool?
Yeah, like you know what I mean? Like, and but that's what I needed to hear. But I commend you on one thing, man. It's coming to the understanding of that you were in your own way.
Yeah.
Because we live in a society now, it seems like predominantly is living in victimhood. You know what I mean? And
brother, don't even get me started on that, because we could have a freaking podcast that lasts 3 days. I promise you.
Yeah, man, I'm sure, man. Well, we got 3 hours, man. So,
well, it's funny that you say that, because I'm not going to sit here and jump on a pedestal and go, oh, you victim, blah, 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 because I played the victim when I retired. When they retired me, I got medically retired at 17 years. I still wanted to put on an anchor. I still wanted to take a battalion aid station back to combat, my own battalion aid station. And I wanted to go to MARSOC and freaking operate. I didn't get to do any of those things. Like I just went to a schoolhouse. I got in trouble. and I got medically separated and retired at 17 years. And nobody did that but me.
Right,
Nobody did
right.
that but me. And I got off easy. Like I could have lost pay grade. I could have lost payments. I could have lost money. I could have lost all. I got a suspended bust. I got lucky. I had some really good people looking out for me. And alcohol was involved and some other stupid stuff, but I blamed it on seeing the battle of the fight for Fallujah on the History Channel. Well, guess what? I blamed it on that, and I literally watched it 3 days in a row because I was in Fallujah 2004. And I watched that whole documentary 3 days in a row. And each time I watched it, I literally fell asleep because I was like so emotionally drained. And I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't know what was happening. I'd watched it and I could feel myself getting exhilarated and worked up. And by the time it was over and the credits were gone, I was passed out. I was emotionally in shock. Psychosomatic shock. And I didn't realize what was going on. My first diagnosis with post-traumatic stress disorder wasn't even PTS. It was general adaptive syndrome, GAS. And I got that in Fallujah after a really, really bad day. And I got a couple vials of tramadol and Toradol. I got a couple vials of Toradol and a couple of bags of fluid, and I went to sleep. And then I woke up the next day and I went back to do my job, So, it was just another day. But at the end of the day, what it all boils down to is taking responsibility for myself. Like at the end of the day, like I have to realize and remember that every second of every day. Because it's easy for me to go, oh, see, freaking Simon freaking did that. Simon caused that shit because he put me on a podcast. And then nothing to do with Simon. Simon asked me to come here. I could have said no. Simon just was affording me the opportunity to speak about my truth.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, everything that comes out of my mouth has a weight, has a validity. Every action I have, every action I complete has a weight, has a consequence. And I have to own that. Nobody else.
Right.
I can't make you own me. I can't make you own my decisions. I can't make you own. It's just like, I don't even know, man. The world today I'm pretty sure you agree that it's kind of upside down.
Yeah, man. It's I try to not stick my head in the sand, just because I want to have like some self-awareness of what's
Sure.
going on. But at the same time, I do it in doses and I pick and choose not necessarily like cherry pick what I want to see, but if something like strikes my attention, I kind of look at more like a zoomed out view. I've had this conversation before, that I believe as just military in general, we have a different set of optics where we don't look at just the local news. I mean, we might look into that, but we look zoomed out. We look like world politics, troop movements and stuff like that. And
well, you've done boards. You've done boards before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like advancement boards and all that stuff. What's one of the biggest pieces of an advancement board?
I mean, our
current events. Yeah.
Yeah, current events. Yeah.
Global current events.
Exactly.
You'll see that on every advancement board. It doesn't matter what branch of service you're in. Because we also need to understand that from outside of our small window, there's a big picture.
Mm-hmm.
because the grand scheme of things for, say, me as a corpsman, and you, what'd you do in the Air Force?
I was calm. So
So, all right. So you're a comm tech in the Air Force. If I can't get a UHF signal to a Warthog or a 15, then I have a problem.
right.
Or if I can't get it, if I can't get a signal to
AWACS or
an
SATCOM.
H-53, then I'm screwed. I'm screwed. If their radio's jacked because you didn't do your job, I'm screwed. But I can sit here and talk about how trashy you are as the Air Force guy, and you all have a lobster and freaking, peanut butter on a freaking Wednesday, But at the end of the day, people forget that it's always about the door kicker, but the door kicker can't do his job without you.
Yeah, we're relying on each other more than we know. We give each
Right.
other a lot of shit, but
Right.
at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to.
You're not going to have a door kicker that wants to do his job if the admin guy isn't getting him paid.
Yeah, and it as much as we like to trivialize like other jobs, like because stuff isn't getting done or what have you. At the end of the day, we all depend on each other, like
Right.
more than we know.
Oh yeah. Like I can tell you what it's like to be in on Nazaria without a supply chain and having no food. That shit sucks for about a week.
Yeah, I bet.
Drinking water out of the Euphrates River.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I'm going to have a third arm growing out of my back before I pass away.
Yeah, I hope not, but I know what you mean. Yeah, and like the worst, I'll be honest, man, the worst I had it was like on deployment was them losing my shit for like 2 weeks and not be able to just wearing the same clothes for like 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Right.
Stinking like shit, but
you know what's funny though? I'm gonna say this, and it probably won't settle with a lot of people.
Just say it, man.
But trauma is trauma is trauma. It really doesn't matter. We're gonna sit here and we're gonna talk about things that suck. When it sucks, it sucks. It doesn't matter about how bad it sucks. If it sucks for the individual who's dealing with the suck, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We can all sit here and talk about, well, my suck's worse than yours. Shut up.
Yeah. And
shut up.
That's actually what kept me from getting help for a long time because
I
minimized.
Because somebody told you all you're worried about is your freaking clothes were dirty.
Yeah, I mean that wasn't my trauma, but yeah, I know what
you. No, but right, but that's just right. That's that's not what I'm saying because I don't want to get into that without your permission or talk about that unless you want to talk about that. But what I'm saying is that's just an example of how people treat each other.
Right.
Like I'm gonna tell you that you don't deserve to get help because all you're worried about is your fucking clothes. Eat a dick.
Right.
I should be smacked in the mouth because if you've got 52 paper cuts and they're good, solid paper cuts, well, you know what a good paper cut feels like.
Yeah. That
right.
More some broken
so you
bones.
right. They suck. They suck. So you got 52 paper cuts and you get dunked in a bottle of alcohol. And you got one dude who just had his finger cut off. Which one's worse?
That's a good point.
You can't decide which one's worse. Because if you're being tortured by paper cuts and you're being dunked in alcohol, how long is that taking you? How many of those paper cuts are you enduring? How many times are you going in the alcohol?
Yeah.
That dude lost his finger and he went and got it taken care of. And he's like, now he's sitting there, on all kinds of medications. I shouldn't judge how you feel about the trauma that you've experienced based on my own.
Right. But a lot of people do that. And
of course they do.
Different stages of their healing. I've noticed that. And at first it was kind of hard to, because I was so stuck in whatever place I was in. Mm-hmm. That your first thing is because you're like kind of guarding these traumas or what have you. So anything, it's like a dog that's injured, right? And you try to go touch it and it's going to bite. So those even though I didn't understand it, like the way they were reacting when they would talk shit about other people, it wasn't necessarily with me, but at the same time, like your natural defense is to protect yourself. So
Right.
you react in kind, and as you move on and you kind of start accepting, like you go through these windows of healing, um, you start to understand like that's actually their shit that they're dealing with, and they're just kind of
Right.
putting it on
Projection.
you. Yeah, projection, exactly.
Projection. Right. Most people will come at me tearing me down because not very much anymore, but you'll see people I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but people will come at me trying to tear me down because they don't like the success that I'm after
Mm,
or the success that I've won. And at the end of the day, they don't want me to be above them. And the reality is that in my mind, I'm never going to be above them. I'm just chasing my dream.
right.
But to them, I look like I'm better than they are.
It's kind
And
of
that them projecting their negativity about themselves onto me. I used to do it. I know what it feels like. I know what it looks like. Like I used to blame other people for all the garbage I ever did. Oh, I get drunk all the time because I can't handle my own shit. Because they know nobody cares. Nobody cares about what's going on with me. That's never been the truth.
right.
There's always somebody that cares. I wrote a song called Not Alone. The reality is that I'm never alone. Even if people literally if I push everyone away, somebody still cares about me. And even if some person, human being doesn't care about me, God still loves me. He will
There,
always still love me.
there you go, man.
So I'm never alone. I'm never alone. And no one should ever feel like one of my favorite songs in the whole world is by Zach Williams, and it's called Fear's a Liar. And Zach Williams in that song is literally discussing the devil
Mm,
as fear, because that's what the devil does. The devil creates this fear. And God doesn't want me to be afraid of anything. Jesus Christ, all things are possible through Jesus Christ. Like I'm not the greatest pastor on the planet, and I don't really consider myself to be one,
mm-hmm.
but I do love Jesus Christ, and I love my Lord and personal Savior. And I've been in jail and I've been hospitalized. I've almost killed myself 4 times. I've seen some stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to combat twice. Seen some pretty horrible stuff on this planet. And my perspective today, I've got, let's see, how many days sober do I have? I have 400 some odd days sober. 404 days.
Congratulations, man.
I have 404 days sober, man. And I couldn't have a better perspective in my life. And I didn't do it with AA, and I didn't do it with medication. I didn't do it with any of that stuff. I literally just gave my will over to God, because me driving this boat looks pretty trashy.
Yeah, man. It's I mean, that's awesome. It takes a lot of willpower to try to do that, and like to have this understanding of a bigger purpose, something bigger than yourself, to actually make that change and actually give that trust over to God to um, steer the boat for you, as you said. That's huge, man. It's huge, especially for like kind of what we started out with, this bravado, right? That you were talking about, and how that kind of takes over, and you feel like you're in charge, you're doing it, nobody could tell you what to do or how to do it.
Yeah,
And then for you to come from that place to the place to actually give it over to something bigger than yourself, as God, and to do that, man, it's amazing, man. And you're in a seemingly, I didn't know you beforehand, but it seems like you're in a way better place, and you're chasing your dreams now, and you have this awareness about yourself. And not only are you doing that, you're also sharing your story to try to, uh, hoping it resonates with those that are kind of been in those places as you have. So
Well, it's funny. It's funny that so I've been chasing my dreams for a long time, and and I don't necessarily say famous, but I've been relatively famous. Like I've played in front of 60,000 people on a stage. I've played the Whiskey Go Go. I've played the Viper Room in LA, and I've toured music all over across the United States, and I've played in front of a lot of people. So I've been relatively successful in the music industry, but you know what? I wasn't mentally, emotionally, and spiritually prepared for it.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be because you're just giving up your energy at every show, and that just depletes you. And if you don't have a good foundation to do that upon, it shit can go bad quick.
That's right. And that's exactly what was happening. I was too busy trying to work on everybody else's shit. My phone number was published. I had people call me, and it's not their fault. Like I had people who would call me and be like, "Hey man, I just want to talk to you. I just want to tell you how awesome it is to get your, hear your song and hear your music and what it does for me." And, and they're just, and then and then it would be, I need to unload some stuff. And then I'd be like, okay, well, and then I felt this immense, overwhelming responsibility to listen. I didn't have a choice, but there was nobody there to listen to me. Like I couldn't share what was going on with me, nor did I really want to, because I just wanted to give that everybody else the opportunity that they needed to heal, because I was trying to be a corpsman. And I wasn't working on me. I wasn't taking care of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally ended up with a huge bruise right here on my forehead, about the size of a silver dollar, from a 9mm M&P shield. I just kept clicking it on my forehead.
Damn.
And then I finally, I guess I called as many people as I could. And most of those people gave me great advice, but for some reason, I couldn't get past myself. Again, I couldn't get past me. I couldn't get out of my own way. I was in a toxic relationship. I was in a toxic band. And it's not their fault. Like they just don't understand. They don't know what's going on with me. Wasn't there. I guess, I don't want to sit here and blame those people. I should have just never been in that situation. Again, it's always my responsibility. Like it's my responsibility to allow and or not allow things in my life. So I let myself get into the position to where I was in these toxic situations.
Yeah,
and I didn't get out of it.
Yeah, on the other side of that, I know you said you shouldn't have been in that situation, but if you hadn't been in those situations, do you think you would have been able to come to this clarity and understanding and pull yourself out of it?
That's a good question. I mean, I think there's biblical learning in everything,
Mm-hmm.
And I do it. And one of the things that I honestly believe, because people are like, well, why does God let children die? Or why does God create all these horrible things for me to go through and all these trials? Well, God doesn't do that. I believe God doesn't do that. I believe those situations happen because of our choices, our free will. And I believe that Satan creates a lot of things that we listen to. And I think that our responsibility and our requirements are to listen to God, help us get through. It's just like we talk, yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Thy rod and thy staff shall comfort me. Like lay me down. And, so that whole verse is literally about, hey, here I'm going through this trial. I'm going through these tribulations. Dear Lord, I pray that you walk with me, because that's what he's telling us to make happen. He wants us to
Right.
walk along with him so he can help us get through it, to learn how to cope with it and move on from it. But we choose not to do that. And we choose to go over it or around it or under it or drink it or that's where alcoholism. We don't work on our like alcohol is the great way for me to dismiss and or negate my own issues. So what do? I'm gonna I got all this issue stuff going on. Today is an anniversary day, and I gotta remember freaking my buddy. I don't know. We'll say Joe. I gotta remember my buddy Joe's not here anymore, and so Joe died from alcohol. But I'm gonna go drink for him because he can't.
Right.
So that's a choice I made. Right, that is my decision.
I do feel that.
I'm drinking because I don't want to think about what's going on with Joe.
Right.
What happened with Joe? Or
Yeah.
how I feel about what happened to Joe.
Right. I do feel that that we're meant to struggle, not in the sense of like because we did something bad or good. I do feel that the struggle is there to give us opportunities to grow from it and become
Right, sure. Absolutely. I mean, we're humans and we talk about iron sharpening iron. And it's not wrong. Iron sharpens iron. Like it really does. And there's nothing in life, even some of the most enjoyable things in life. Sex, for instance. I'm going to give you for instance, like sex. I'm pretty sure everybody can consider sex to be one of the most amazing things on the planet. And if you don't, you're probably a eunuch and or don't have
or
the
if you're not doing it
genitalia
right.
you don't have the capacity to enjoy it anyway. But even sex is not enjoyable without friction.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Childbirth does not happen without friction. Life doesn't happen without friction. You can break it down to the smallest atom, and that atom doesn't split without friction.
Yeah, light can't exist without the dark and vice versa. You need
Right.
the background to see what's in front of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's dark just so you can see the light.
Right. So when did I know you, sorry, I imagine you've always played music.
Yeah, I kind of started playing music in the 5th grade at 5th grade band at elementary school. I wanted to learn how to play the saxophone.
Nice.
That's where I started. Huh?
Were you a Kenny G fan?
I'm actually a Boots Randolph fan.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And that's old school. That's old school Kenny G. That's before Kenny G was ever born.
It sounds like it. There's not too many people named Boots today. Named Boots.
Yeah. But saxophone is like one of the coolest instruments on the planet. But so I learned how to play saxophone. I've always sang. My dad used to yell at me in the back of the car and be like, "Hey boy, be quiet. I can't hear the radio." And I would just kind of under my voice, But so music has always just been a thing. It's pretty much what powers my soul, I think, most of the time.
I used to sing a lot when I was younger. And maybe that was a sign of when things started going bad when I stopped singing. You know what I mean? Because I used to like really, really like enjoy it, And
I was gonna ask you what stopped.
I don't know. That's a good question, because I saw something the other day is like when you go to somebody for healing or something and they ask you like, when did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop? I forget all the other things, but
Did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop?
Yeah, exactly. So that question is kind of been like bouncing around in my head. You know,
Yeah.
I chew on it every once in a while and then I kind of go back to it, but every so often I do it again. But I
Oh,
definitely,
it's
it's one of
probably
those
like eating
things.
an elephant. You have to eat it a little bit at a time.
Yeah, man. I mean, I started kind of moving laterally a little bit. Bought a ukulele, maybe like 5, 6 years ago when I was in Hawaii,
Yeah.
and I just started messing around with it and about 30 minutes every day. And
Dude, that's
I,
cool.
yeah, man, I really enjoy playing it and stuff. But yeah, so yeah, so I understand what you're saying because my parents used to tell me the same thing. You know, they'd be like, "Hey, who sings this song?" You know, and be like, "Oh, you just say it." Like, yeah, let's keep it that way. You know what I mean?
That's just old school cruelty.
Yeah.
Nobody likes that kind of shit.
So,
Like,
so like,
but yeah, no, I get it. But so I'll tell you, so music ended up becoming my therapy. Like post two tours of combat, like I started writing more music when I got back from Fallujah than I wrote. I probably wrote one of my first big songs with a friend of mine. Um, Probably 4 days after being back from Fallujah at a coffee house in Chula Vista, Texas, Chula Vista, California. Um, Tiffany Conley came to visit me. Her fiance or husband, I don't know if they were married at the time or not, had just deployed and I just gotten back. We were all good friends, and she met me up for coffee, and we sat down at the coffee table and outside, and I had a guitar with me, and we ended up writing the song called I Need to Breathe. And it literally is part of the staple of my music today. So, but it also music has been my therapy for a long time, but it also became, I guess, the ball and chain for a while.
if you think about it, like music as medicine, right?
Yeah.
The only difference between medicine and poison is the dosage. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better, bro. I couldn't have put it better.
So
I couldn't have put it better.
I always tell my kids like too much of anything's like you know, or too much of a good thing is a
You
bad
are
thing or
not
something like that.
wrong. Like so it got to the point where we were all over the place, and there was not a lot of time for us, and it was just, and it was the band was Sing Monkey Sing, do your thing and shut your mouth. And on the other side of that, I had another toxic relationship that was trying to, well, you're out there whoring around with all these. And I never touched another woman. I never did. I did it once. I destroyed a good marriage. I'll never do it again. I'll never, ever, 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 ever do that again. So I didn't.
Right,
I had
right.
plenty of opportunities, but didn't stop the fact that I kept hearing about it. I kept getting phone calls and I kept getting text messages and blown up and all this other stuff. And I had to prove myself every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We had all this toxic garbage going on while we're out playing. And I should have been enjoying some of the things that I've experienced in my life, like playing in front of 60,000 people at the ESPN Center. You know,
Yeah, I got
but I
you, man.
couldn't because I was too wrapped around the axle with all the toxicity that I've allowed in my life.
Yeah, I'm sure we all have, anybody listening that's had a toxic relationship that can relate to that in the
Sure.
sense of like constantly having to prove yourself, constantly having to justify why you're this or why you're that, why you're doing that or anything. So yeah, I got
Right.
you, man. So
Man.
what's that like, man? Like to, not in the sense of toxicity, but what's that like to do something that you love and have that direct response from 60,000 people?
I don't, man.
Because if you go by you know, I believe energy transfers, you know,
Yes.
whether it's good or negative energy from somebody. So to have that positive, you know, I assume it was positive feedback from a crowd of
Yeah.
60,000
Yeah. No, it
people.
was. I mean, let's share some video footage with you, but Like it was like we did 4 songs, and I'm gonna tell you, man, I don't know that I've ever experienced anything so amazing in my life. Ever. Like, because to have all those people cheering you on after performing something that's so personal. We did, I mean, I didn't do any covers. We did songs that I had written. And to have those people go, well, I don't really know what this song is, but man, it's kind of cool. That's probably one of the most elating and exciting moments in my life. Scary. But after, the first 3 minutes of the first song, like there was all kinds of things going wrong. My headset went out. And it wasn't my ear, but it wasn't my ears. It was my pack. My in-ear monitor pack went dead. I couldn't hear anything. Couldn't hear anything on stage. At one point, like it's on 17 different national television networks. And I don't mean American national television networks. I mean
international
17 nations.
Oh, wow.
Television networks. And it gets to a point where I'm like, fuck it, let's do this. And I just pull out my earbud and I'm like, you can hear me on stage because I've got this microphone hanging out of the side of my face. And I'm in the middle of this song and I'm like, fuck it, let's go. And I'm just like, and then you kind of go, I'm expecting this beep. And there's no beep.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of those moments where you just go, oh, did he cuss right there?
Yeah.
Well, maybe they won't know,
Yeah.
Maybe they won't realize it, but it was amazing after that moment where I finally was just like, screw it, let's just tear this apart. Like it was the best thing in the world. It was the best feeling ever.
Yeah.
Like standing in the middle of ESPN Center in freaking Orlando at Disney World. I was just blown away.
Dang.
We walked off the stage and Rascal Flatts was coming on stage and the blonde guy looked at me and he was like, dude, that's a good set. I was like, thanks, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cool.
Probably
Awesome.
deaf too. Because I imagine that noise
awesome.
from the crowd is probably deafening.
Yeah, well, it was. I mean, it was definitely. It was a respectful event. It was kind of one of those things where you just kind of, we're celebrating combat veterans from 17 different nations.
Oh, wow.
Like they were all like, it was the Invictus Games that Prince Harry put together back in 2015.
Okay.
And this was here in America in 2016. But yeah, it was probably one of the most amazing moments of my life.
Okay.
But I didn't really get to enjoy it very long because I was too busy dealing with all the other garbage.
Yeah. So it's short-lived, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I said earlier, like I don't blame those people. It was me allowing that in my life. It was me allowing that in the first place.
So how have you shifted? Like, I imagine like you've kind of learned the lessons from that. You kind of like learn how to set up boundaries and,
Well, that's it. And so it's funny that you say that because I used to have a stupid amount of lack of boundaries. Like I was the exact opposite of boundaries. I'd dig a trench for you to fall into to come hang out with me. like I was kind of like a negative boundary. Right. That was more like a funnel. So, and I would sacrifice myself to make you feel better. And that's very unhealthy.
Right.
It's very unhealthy for anyone. So I'll say this: in the last year of my life, being sober, and I do probably about 4 hours of therapy a week. But doing 4 hours of therapy a week and being sober, bro, it couldn't be anything better. It's probably some of the best stuff I do all day.
Yeah, it's it's interesting you say that, because there's a sense of clarity that comes from that I didn't realize that would come from when you stop drinking.
Right.
There's just like a different level of clarity is the only word I can think of, but you
Right.
just see it's just more clear headed. You sleep a little bit better.
Right.
Those are like some of the things that I started to do, was because my sleep was shit. I'm sure having nightmares or whatever, or just
Yep.
can't sleep and you don't know why.
Right.
And then years of that, not to mention doing the mission, going overseas, different
Right.
the time zones, coming back and then having to do it again, yada yada, stress, life, yada. So I slowly started scaling back certain things in my life, like I don't have a TV in my bedroom. I
Right.
use a Himalayan salt lamp, so that way when I go to bed, it's a subtle light. It's not like a bright light, you know what I mean? And then I started doing like aromatherapy. I started doing all this shit that I would have never done before, just to try to get better sleep.
Yep.
But that progression started, like I started limiting things from my life to get more of a gain from life, I guess.
Sure.
One of those things eventually became alcohol.
Right.
I learned how to get out of my own way, as you stated earlier.
Right.
That's like a perfect thing, because I was in my own way, that macho-ness, that bravado, that
Yeah.
like, fuck it, I've been doing it this way for this many years, like I'm fine, and
Yeah.
like, but on the other side of it, it's now like I didn't understand like what I had to gain. I just focused on what I had to lose, and that's why I never did anything, because I was like, well, I can't do this anymore. I can't have fun anymore. I can't do this. But one thing that is interesting about when I stopped drinking, like I used to watch football, like it was going out of style, dude. Again, it was part of my life growing up. I played football all the way through high school.
Yep.
Got really into it, and but when I stopped drinking, I realized that like at the first weekend that I had an opportunity to I came out of a program, right? I went through a few different programs, military programs, to try to deal with my shit. And one of my first weekends out, it was during football season, and I kind of started to, what, I'm gonna make wings. You gotta try my wings, by the way. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to perfect them for a while, and I
Don't threaten me with a good time, fool.
Hey man, next time maybe I invite you over to the house, or vice versa, man, and we'll get it done.
Well, we don't live too far away. You're down in San Antonio, right?
Yeah, yes sir, and you're in Austin, so
Yeah, dude. Don't threaten me with a good time.
yeah,
I'll be
man.
down there anytime.
Yeah, man, that'd be cool. But yeah, so I
You offer wings. Don't think I won't try to. Promise.
yeah, man. So yeah, I would
I don't
definitely have
eat
to.
beer to eat wings, fool.
Nah, yeah, I didn't. And that's another thing too. I used to think that like every time I have wings, I have to have a beer with it, because I just felt like it complemented. So, and it does to an extent, but at the same time,
Yeah.
if the wings are that good, you don't have to worry about the beer. You know what I mean?
Right. So does a Sprite, bro.
Yeah. So my first weekend, I flared up the grill. I started up the grill, and I realized that like in that instance, once I smelled the lighter fluid and everything,
Yep.
it
Your mouth
triggered that.
started
Yeah, like
started to water.
yeah, because I would always my mouth started to water, exactly.
Yep.
And then when I sat down,
Pavlov's law.
exactly. So I sat down and watched the game, and football wasn't the same, man. I mean, I still enjoy it. I appreciate it. I can appreciate it from a strategy level, and I'm really,
I can still see what a pro formation is, an I formation.
yeah, I can call out play action, all that
Call
stuff.
a 5-3 or a 4-4.
Exactly.
or a
Exactly.
nickel or a dime. I can do that all day long. But you know what? I don't even. I'm the same way. I don't drink like I used to, and I could care less about all the alcohol commercials and all the garbage and blah blah blah. And B, I really don't give a shit about the politics from some jackass who makes multi-millions of dollars talking about being oppressed. Like, shut up.
Yeah, I heard of the. I haven't seen it, but there's a Netflix documentary that came out about that. I know where you're going to. It's, yeah,
Kaepernick's,
and
yeah,
he's
whatever.
equating it to slavery.
That
And
dude's about as special as a freaking window licker.
yeah, so I saw that and I was just like, that's a bit much. That's a bit of a stretch to try
Yeah.
to make that connection to slavery, and when you're getting
Well,
paid millions of dollars, you know.
he's getting paid millions of dollars now to make that connotation. So,
So yeah,
it's all
so
garbage. But I do love football. I'm the same way, man. Listen, I played linebacker. I played defensive end. I played like fullback. I played a bit of halfback. I played pretty much every position all the way around the field, except for maybe corner and wing,
right.
or wide receiver. I was just way too big for most of those positions. But like, I love football. I
Mhm.
could tell you what a pulling guard does. Like today, be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna wait for that freaking linebacker to walk through and ear hole that man, dude. You know,
Yeah.
so like I get all that stuff, and I love the concept of the game. And if it were not so politicized and so money driven, like it was for us in high school, I'd probably still watch it.
Right. And that's the thing too that I also started to do. And I think the military had a lot to do with it, especially like living overseas or being deployed or whatever. You didn't have,
Yeah.
you kind of like slowly got deconditioned from
Right.
constantly watching TV every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of like, so now when I watch
Oh my
commercials,
God, I gotta watch the Super Bowl.
yeah,
I gotta see the halftime show. Nah, nobody cares, man.
yeah. So like now it's just like when I watch any type of regular TV, or I'm at somebody's house or whatever, I see the commercials and I'm like, you can see through the bullshit, you know, you can see
Right.
the propaganda
Right.
or like the marketing or whatever. And like,
Yep.
most of the time I just mute it, you know.
Dude, you know, that's the beautiful thing I think about being sober. It's one of those things that I think God kind of wanted to like gift us in sobriety. Like, hey, just so you know, now that you're not got all that chemical garbage in your head, take a look at what you can see in the real world now. You know what I mean?
It's like taking that veil
So
off.
much. Yeah. Well, it's so much easier to see through the freaking exactly. It's like taking a veil off.
Mhm.
It's so much easier to see through the smoke in the mirrors.
Right. And I mean, I know alcohol is not the same for everyone. Some people are able to have like one or two, and you know, honestly, like every once in a while, like the other day, I had one beer. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I approach it now from a place of, as like I said earlier, the difference between a medicine and poison is dosage.
Right.
But that's
You're
something
not wrong. That's a great. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use that again.
Yeah,
Where you
it's not
got
mine.
that,
It's but from a book I'm reading, so I can't complain. I mean, I can't, you know, take full credit.
take
But
credit
it
for
is a
it.
good. It is a good saying, though.
No, yeah. Like I'm definitely. What's the name of the book?
I'm actually been reading up. It's called A Pilot's Guide to Ayahuasca. It's something I started
Okay.
studying. Not studying, but I started. It piqued my interest when I first got out of the military in this search to try to find a way to find my own healing. You know,
Sure.
I everything. Religious text.
Sure.
I just kind of like I casting a wide net, and
Oh yeah.
that's
There's
kind of,
nothing wrong with that, bro.
yeah. Because
Nothing wrong with that
my
at all.
thing is like if are serious as a society to tackle this mental health crisis, then we have to consider all things within relative to, as long as it's not hurting the person, because there's not one size fits all for healing for everyone. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And if there is evidence to back this and to like to help people come out of that place and find themselves, at least get back to where they were or where they last remember they were happy, or
Right.
I don't know, that's kind of a loose term, happy, but you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, totally.
Then so anyways, that's, I'm trying to educate
Happiness
myself
is
more than anything.
literally available. We just have to recognize what it looks like.
Right. And it's different for each person, you know what I mean? So yeah, so that's where I got it from that book. It was just talking about, you know, um like how it's been used for, tens of thousands of years in the
I think
culture in
it's
South
a
America.
I think it's a great statement, and I think it's actually very accurate.
Right, right. So I had like a beer the other day, went out for a ride. One of the things, so we're talking about like different things to try to find yourself back to where you're at. So one of the things, I quit drinking, and then when I retired from the military, which I was almost in the same boat. They tried to force me out before my 20 at 19 years, and that was because I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but we'll circle back to it.
Yeah.
But that was because of a lack of communication between the clinic on base, because they didn't have the facility or a psychiatrist to issue meds to me.
Sure.
So they sent me off base to the VA. The VA didn't talk to the active duty. So
And you got busted for freaking hot urine or some trash.
yeah. So they gave me
Adderall.
I don't know which one it was, but either one, I couldn't have it on active duty. So
Oh,
that triggered
it's probably a benzo or something like that.
yeah. So that put me on they had triggered a med board.
Sure.
But luckily, like you said, if you have people taking care of you, my unit, it wasn't the people, it was the system that kind of fucked me.
Right.
But at the same time, I gotta say that
problems,
because of the bureaucracy of the system, it allowed me to get to my 20. So
right.
Fortunately for me, I was able to do that. It just sucked that, like you, I wasn't able to exit on my own terms, man. And
right.
Really,
You didn't make another pay grade. You didn't do anything. You didn't do what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I still wanted to leave on my own terms. I felt like I at least deserve that. You know what I mean? But
right. After 20 years, I thought that after at least 17 years of devoted, selfless service, that I would have a little latitude to be understood. Hey, listen, like, I've experienced some stuff. I need you to give me a little levity.
right.
That wasn't necessarily how it worked out. And you know what, but it did work out for its best, because there was absolutely no way, if I'd have gone back into the puppy mill, and I use that term loosely just because it kind of depicts what the military is. It's just like, hey, we're gonna put you back in the puppy mill and grind a little more. We're gonna make another dog out of you, whatever.
Right. I got you.
But if I'd have gone back into the puppy mill and done another deployment, I probably wouldn't have come home, or I would have come home and I'd have been so messed up that there wouldn't have been a recovery.
Right.
So God took me out of the play at God's time. It's like, one of the things I love to hear is Godspeed. Everybody's like, Godspeed, Godspeed. And sometimes, for the most part, people think Godspeed is fast because he's God.
Right.
Godspeed just means God's timing.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I hear terms all the time, and I've used them quite a bit, and to include that one. But most of the time I related it to like speed, like fast,
Right.
But that makes perfect sense. How
it has absolutely nothing to do with speed. It's all about God's timing.
Yeah, it's like you told me the other day when we're talking on the phone, like if you want to make God laugh, to
let me just tell you about my plan.
Yeah, exactly. So I find that interesting, but yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, man.
Because we always apply our own ego and understanding of whether powerful than us, or just we try to apply it to our experiences, to whatever phrase it is, and more 9 times out of 10, I don't say 9 times out of 10, but most of the time it isn't accurate, because we're so close to the problem we can't see around it.
Right. You're not wrong. And not only that, but we're so inundated with all the information that we've already been received and or given and or
our cup is too full.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's, man, I wish I could remember that first story in the little book. There's a little book called, hold on. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Cause it's a small little story. It's a 1-page little story. Called Teacup. It's yeah. Is this it? No, that's not it. It's a story about a monk in a teacup.
Yeah,
Right.
I used to read well, I still do from time to time, but like Taoist stories.
Right.
Um because there's a lot of symbolism in it, and they're relatable to everyday life, and really try to keep perspective on things and not allow things to become too overwhelming. So it definitely helps to read things like that, at least for
Right,
me.
right. Oh yeah, yeah. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Here it is. I think this is it. Let me make sure. Yeah, here we go. You have time for this? This is
Yeah,
cool.
man, we got time.
There was a Japanese Zen master named Nan-in who lived during the Meiji era. In 1868 and 1912, during his days as a teacher, he was visited by a university professor curious about Zen. Being polite, Nan-in served the professor a cup of tea. As he poured, the professor's cup became full, but Nan-in kept on pouring. As the professor watched the cup overflow, he could no longer contain himself and said, "It's over full. No more will go in." Nan-in turned to the professor and said, "Like this cup, you are too full of your own opinions and
Mhm.
speculations. How can I show you Zen unless first you empty your cup?"
Exactly, and that's where I've heard that one before, and that's why I said your cup is too full,
Mm-hmm.
because that's exactly it, and that applies to me too, at times, because
Oh, me too. Absolutely.
yeah, I've sat with people who are like a lot wiser and smarter than me, and after the conversation, I'm like, self-reflecting, I'm like, you fucking talk too much. You know what I mean? Like you need to learn how to fucking listen. You know what I mean? So, because
Well,
I could have learned so much more
I
if I
will
just
say
shut
this.
up. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but let me tell you, you can't be that harsh with yourself. I mean, you can be that harsh with yourself, but at the end of the day, you're not wrong because I do it too. But B, how I treat myself is how I allow other people to treat me.
Mm.
So if I'm going to sit here and be like, man, you talk too fucking much, you should shut your whore mouth.
Shut
Like
your
at that
dirty
point,
mouth.
I'm going to let somebody else say the same exact thing to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if I take that perspective and I learn that moment, man, I think next time I probably should just let him talk and not speak so much.
Right.
Educate yourself more lovingly.
Yeah, it's something I've been working on. Because my wife, she's really good about reminding me that, like, when I, call myself pendejo or stupid, like when I just talking shit to myself, she's like,
Ay,
don't do
stupid
that, man.
pendejo.
Yeah. I do that a lot, especially when I'm working on stuff. I curse at it, or I curse at myself, or you
Yeah.
know, it's I thought that was my name growing up, for the longest time.
Pendejo.
Pendejo. Come here. But yeah, man, it's a habit I'm trying to break, and I've gotten a lot better at it.
Well, so you understand. So I'm going to say this to you. It's funny. So it's you thought that was your name growing up. It's funny how you say that because that's where you learned it.
No, yeah, exactly.
That's where you learned it. And it's not necessarily something that our mom and dads decide that they want to do.
Right.
It's what they were taught.
Mm-hmm.
Deja, pendejo. Cállate la boca, pendeja. You
Yeah.
know, you just kind of go, all right, well, I guess my name's Pendejo. Biche, Biche Pendejo.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a different kind of love, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's love, but it's kind of one of those like,
Yeah.
mom, do you know what that means? Like, oh no, yeah, wait, I know what it means.
I know what it means. I fucking told you.
Yeah, I told you, don't give it the platas, fool.
Yeah. But yeah, man. So it's definitely, that's something I definitely try to work on, is is kind of being self-aware, and it's kind of going through when you kind of start to down this path to kind of like, own your shit and like try to actually change like your current state of mind. It starts off with like the obvious ones, I feel, the ones you think they are.
Mhm.
But the more boxes you open as you kind of go into that closet you storm in, you end up finding things like in your childhood that, and I'm not saying like it's just the reality of like where people, grew up and like how they grew up and like what things
Well, yeah,
happened to them. But
absolutely.
it's like learned habits. And
Yeah.
so when you can look back and you can kind of open that box and understand it, like, hey, that's why you do that, like what you brought up, then you're able to understand it. It's not the sense of like, oh, feel sorry for me. It's more so like, okay, I get it. Okay, I understand it now I can not allow it to control me as much, or debilitate me in whatever way. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that specific occurrence, but just in when you
Well,
kind of start reaching
so
back.
so I'll tell you. So I'll put it to you this way. So, and you're not wrong. You're absolutely right. And I'm gonna tell you, like one of the things that has probably changed my entire life, and how I take responsibility for myself is like, how we sometimes I will do it. I'll do it, but then I'll catch myself, be like, so how you do the thing with the stuff, and you put the thing, and then you go into the blah 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 blah.
Right.
So instead of talking second person about what I'm trying to express to you, I talk about me
Mm-hmm.
and the experience that I'm experiencing. Because at that point, talking about myself in first person gives me the authority to own it. And
Right.
when I start owning myself, I can take a little more responsibility for the things that come out of my mouth. And um, I can also change my perspective with that, because it's easier for me to see it when I utilize me as the example in any conversation I'm having. Like sitting here talking to you, like if I want to talk about something we're talking about, I would prefer to give you an example using something I've experienced, because it's
Yeah.
it's A, my experience, and B, um it's better than blaming you for my experience.
Right.
You know
And
what I mean?
I read somewhere that neurologically, that when you not refer to yourself in the first person, but
Right.
when you use that, instead of saying like, I'm gonna do this, or
Right.
I'm gonna, I don't know, I'm going to be successful at this, that it doesn't really click anything neurologically. But when you say like like when you're talking to yourself, like you are gonna do this, then something neurologically happens where it starts to start that action and understanding and belief.
Right. So when I
Through
say
it.
I'm going to go do
Whatever.
this,
Yeah.
then at that point, it's more of a personal affect than a not so personal affect.
Right. But I always
Does that make
thought
sense?
that when you say that it would trigger like something like action. And it may for some people, but this one thing I read, I wish I can remember where it is, where they were saying if you say you, like, and you're talking to yourself, that does click something neurologically where it
Yeah. I mean, I
inspires
can see
action.
that. I don't necessarily agree to that, because me personally, like I like to take ownership of me and all of the
Right.
things that come from me.
Right. But when you say you, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to when you're talking when it's
Oh,
kind of
I get what
confusing.
you're saying.
Oh
So if you're
yeah,
looking
okay.
in the mirror and you're going, you,
You, exactly.
right. And I get it. And you're not wrong. You're not wrong. If you're looking in the mirror and you can see your face and you're reflecting, it's probably what that means. It refers to. But so if you look in the mirror and you're looking at yourself, if I'm looking at myself in a mirror and I go, you today are going to do the best you can today.
Right.
It's easy because I'm telling me outside of my box, I can focus on this right here and
Mhm.
I can see my face and go, oh, hey, dude, bing, 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 bing.
Yeah.
I need you to pay attention right now because here's what I want to tell you.
You made me think of Back to the Future, Marty McFly. Hello, hello.
Hello, McFly. Yeah, that's funny.
So like I know you do use music as like for healing and stuff. Uh I saw like you when you were back in Kentucky,
Yep.
you went hunting with your pops.
No, I actually went hunting. Well, I was gonna go hunting with my dad, but I ended up going hunting with a friend of mine.
What type of hunting do you do?
All kinds of hunting. We were actually rabbit hunting. We were just running dogs.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
we were
Were they
running dogs that morning.
what do they
It was
call that in
cold.
the UK? Corning or court? I forgot what they call it, but yeah, where they use dogs to chase the rabbits
Mm-hmm.
and they
Yeah.
pull them out.
Yeah. Corning. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Do you bow hunt at all?
Absolutely.
I just got into
I
that.
mean, there may or may not be a bow there. There's a bow right there. There's a bag of arrows. There's a quiver right over there against the
Yeah.
wall. You can probably see that's a guitar, but
You got a
there's a
bow
quiver of
guitar?
arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just started.
Started out hunting with an arch with bow.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just started that this year, and then I fractured my collarbone about a month ago. And then
That sucks. That doesn't.
yeah, yeah, it sucks. So one of the things I do for me is when I retired, I bought a mountain bike. And
Yes. I listen. I've seen you. I watched it. I'm a
oh,
fan.
nice.
I used to love. I mountain bike. I used to. Well, I used to love mountain biking. I'm like I've been beat up and banged up and blown
Yeah.
up many times to be as awesome as I used to be. But I used to downhill in San Diego all the time.
Oh, badass, dude. Well, how tall are you?
6'4".
Okay, it's well, my bike might be a little small for you.
You probably got like a 50. Well, you probably got a 27.
It's a 27.5, but at the same time, it's a large frame. I think you're in the cusp of
Yeah.
extra large
I mean,
frame.
27.5, 20, 28, 29 is probably right around where I'm at.
Okay. Well, if you ever want to go, just chill, and we don't have to do anything crazy. I love taking people out. Just
No,
to
yeah,
go
dude. I
riding.
love riding. I'll ride all day
Yeah.
long. I'm all about it.
There you go. So
I'm all about it, dude.
wings and ride.
Don't
future
threaten
date.
me.
Yeah.
Do not threaten me.
There you go, man. It'd be a good time, man. We got some nice
I'm a
trails down
big
here.
fan. I don't know how long we were planning on doing this. But we can do another. I kind of have to get off here pretty soon.
No, man, we do it as long as we need to, man. And
But
if
I'm not
anything-
opposed to doing this again. I really enjoyed sitting here having a conversation with you. And dude, I'm a fan of yours. I really am.
I
really
appreciate it, man. I didn't know not for nothing, but I had just met you. I was like, maybe he's just being nice. Maybe he hasn't
No.
seen.
I'm not a sunshine blowing up your ass kind of guy.
Me either, man. Me either.
I just don't. I'm not that dude. I've literally had my fingers in arteries before. You think I'm gonna blow sunshine up people's
Yeah,
ass? I don't give a
yeah.
shit about blowing sunshine.
I got you, man. I got you. But yeah, man, I would love to have you back on and see where you're at. And I really appreciate your time. And I really want to try to no shit like set up a day with you. Either I go over there. I've never ridden in Austin. But there's some places
There's a
I
couple
wanted
of
to
cool
check
little
out.
places to ride around here. I mean, it's not like stupid awesome, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, and same thing down here. Here it's more mild. There's a little bit less elevation. When you get in the hill country, there's some pretty good elevation. But
Yeah.
there's
I
definitely some
mean,
good
so
places.
we could probably ride like around Town Lake or something like that. Like,
oh yeah, something chill. You know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, Town Lake's not bad. I got a buddy of mine who's a reserve Marine up here who likes to ride mountain bikes as well. We just do a 3 kind of person ride and just kind of hang out and have a good time.
That's cool, man. Well, let's set that up, man. But
yeah,
like I said, man, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your story, like part of your story and stuff.
dude, thanks for having me on here. And let's seriously, like, let's hang out. Like, I'm a big fan of yours. Like, I really am, and I'm grateful that you are curious about me. I really am.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
how my music gets better and it gets bigger and it goes somewhere, and dude, and I just like being around people. I like
Yeah,
people, and
me
you're
too.
good to be around.
Yeah, man. I could tell that from when I talked to you on the phone. I was like, man, this dude seems like a good person. I'm glad Larry, pointing me in your direction, and definitely gonna follow you more. I've listened to some of your music.
Larry told me to
Continue to
tell you to
see.
give you a hard time, and he's like, "Well, just remind him that he's in the Air Force." And I was like, "Oh, don't worry, I will."
Yeah, he told me to give you a hard time too. I just didn't find a window to
Listen,
put it
what
in.
an instigator! Listen here,
Yeah.
First Sergeant, I'm gonna need you to chill out, fool.
Yeah, man. But definitely, man, we'll do this again. I appreciate your time, and let's. I wish you all the best. Where can people find you?
You can find me on all social media sites, Shannon Book Music, um, on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me SB Music on Twitter. Wherever you get your music download digitally, you can pretty much find me on Apple Music, iTunes, Spotify, Deezer, iHeartRadio, you name it. You can find all my music there. Just a little quick plug. All of the proceeds from the song Not Alone literally goes to an organization of my choosing every month that actively and effectively fights suicide. So if you download and or stream it a lot, then the income from that literally will go help a bunch of people. So
You heard him. Like, so go check him out on some of those platforms he talked about. Download the music and try not try, but help a good cause. I believe altogether we could. As like I told people before, I do really do feel that veterans in the general sense and first responders alike are going to be the ones that kind of have the power, not going to say power, but the capability to put this country back on track and get like shit situated just through conversation and through, being in the community and being a positive force for, folks out there. So same place. If you ever want to listen to this podcast, you can listen to it on Spotify, Deezer, Pandora, everywhere except Apple Music. I don't know what's up with them. They don't want to add me to their shit. So you can find me anywhere else. You can also check me out on YouTube, Crash Fitty, Instagram. I'm really not as active on Facebook. Everything just transfers over. But thanks again, man. I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate everyone listening. Go check him out. Download his music, and for a good cause. And yeah, man. Thanks. Appreciate you, and we'll set up that date in the future, man.
thank you, man. I'm grateful for you.
And maybe you can teach me how to bow a little bit. So, because I
don't threaten me. I promise you. I'll show you how to use it.
I got a bag in the back, man. So when you come over, you bring your bow. We'll shoot at shit.
I like shooting at shit all the time. No matter what I use, I like shooting at shit.
All right, man. Well, have a good day. Have a good weekend. I'll talk to you later, man.
All right, brother. Be
Hey,
good.
thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Shannon Book Music. To check out more about him, go to his page on Instagram at Shannon Book Music. He has a link in his bio. You can go to follow him either on Spotify, YouTube, or various other platforms. So go check him out. All right, thanks, guys.